In this video I wanted to go over some of the most important features in this new release. I will just quickly glance over them and we can discuss them in more details in upcoming videos. If you are interested in a certain feature, please check the description because I will leave links to all the relevant sections. The new WPCodeBox editor is smarter and it can autocomplete PHP code better. So for example, if you want to write a WordPress function, we have autocomplete for all the functions. And more importantly, when you want to add an action, for example, we can write here WP head, for example, and we can see a list of matching action. And if we press Ctrl space again, we can also see the description. So for example, WP head prints the script or data in the head tag on the front end. We select this, and after the second argument we press Ctrl space again, and it will also write the function for us. The same works for filters. So for example, if you want to write a filter, we can write let's say the content. We can see the documentation here on the right, and when you select it and we want to write the handler, we press Ctrl space again, and we have the option to create an anonymous function, and this function will have the parameters and the return automatically completed. And if you want to see the documentation of a certain action or filter after you wrote the code, now you can just hover over it and you can see the documentation, a description, and the parameters of that specific filter or action. Also, if we make a mistake, the WPCodeBox editor will let us know by underlining the problem code with a red line. So for example, we know here that it's a problem and it's a syntax error because we forgot the semicolon. We add it and everything is good. WPCodeBox 2.0 also improves on the CSS editing experience. Let's try writing some code. So if you want to make an H1 the color of blue, we can do this. You can see we now also have a color picker. So if we want to change this color, we can just hover over it, and we can use this color picker to replace this color as we see fit. Also the opacity. Okay, and now WPCodeBox also has better support for CSS variables. So let's change this to a variable. Let's declare this root, and let's say our color green is this. And then if we want to write our H1, we can say color and use our variable, which will also be auto-completed green. So WPCodeBox auto-completed the variable and the correct syntax. We also have autocomplete for all CSS selectors, for example background color, and autocomplete for colors, and we can say padding 20 pixels, and let's add a border radius of 20 pixels. Again, if we hover the selectors, we're gonna see what each selector does, and we have a link to the Mozilla developer reference. A long-awaited feature in WPCodeBox 2.0 is the support for SCSS Partials. SCSS Partials will allow us to better organize our SCSS code and split it up into multiple modules. So let's have a look at how that works. So let's create a new snippet and set the type to SCSS Partials. Let's give it a name of variables, for example. You can see that the name is automatically converted to lowercase and prepended with an underscore. And let's paste in some variables here. So now we have these SCSS partials that will not get rendered. To use this SCSS partial, we need to create a new snippet, set its type to SCSS. Let's call it homepage changes, save it, enable it, and enable auto reload. And now the right syntax is use, and if we press Ctrl space, we're gonna see our CSS partials. Let's use the variables one, save, and now let's click preview. Let's say we want to modify the H1, let's say background color, and use our base color from the partial. You can see we also have autocomplete. Okay, let's say the color is the text color from our variables, and you can see everything works. Add a padding and a border radius. Save, and everything looks good. So this is how SCSS partial work. We create a partial and we use it in our SCSS. This allows for the better organization of code and to look cleaner. In WPCodeBox 2.0, we're going to be able to render HTML and PHP code snippets using shortcodes. So let's look at an example. I have here a blog post and I inserted into it a shortcode that has the name My Custom Shortcode. Currently we have nothing to handle this, so the shortcode appears like this. Now if you go into WPCodeBox, let's create an HTML snippet. HTML, and let's add some text. H1, this is my text. Okay, and where to insert the snippet, we're going to select shortcode and enter our shortcode name here, my custom shortcode. We save it and enable it, and now when we refresh the page, we can see the shortcode is rendered using our HTML snippet. Let's give it a name, HTML shortcode, and save it. Let's try this with PHP. So we create a type PHP. Let's disable the HTML snippet first. Let's create a PHP snippet, PHP shortcode. Now if we check here, we have the shortcode displayed like this again because our HTML snippet is disabled. So as you know, in PHP we have to return what we want in a shortcode. We can't echo stuff, so let's return the current year, date of year. Okay, and how to run this, how to insert the snippet? Let's select shortcode and paste the shortcode name, save, enable it, refresh, and now we can see the current year is here instead of the shortcode. So this is how you can render PHP or HTML snippets using shortcodes in WPCodeBox 2.0. In the new version of WPCodeBox, we're going to be able to render HTML and PHP code snippets using custom actions and custom WooCommerce actions. So let's look at an example. Let's create a new snippet and set it to HTML, and let's paste in some HTML here, enable it, and now where to insert the snippet, let's select before a single product, for example. This, as you can see, is a WooCommerce action. So if we go to the product page now and refresh, we can see our banner up here. We can replace this, for example, to the before the cart on the cart page. We save and then it's gone from here. But if we go to the cart, we see our banner here. This is very useful if you want to insert HTML or PHP code anywhere on your WordPress site. Here are a few of the default actions, but you can also use a custom action. So, for example, in our example, we can use WooCommerce before cart, save, and now it's going to be rendered using this custom action. We can see it here, and this allows us to inject HTML or PHP code in almost any plugin or theme that if we can find these custom actions to insert it into it. So let's look at this example. Let's style it a bit. Let's create a CSS snippet, save, enable it, enable auto reload changes, and open the preview. If you saw, we gave this HTML a class of promo, and for this we gave a class of promo details, so we can customize this. For example, promo, let's say we want a dark background, black, and we want a white text color, save. We can see it updated. Let's add a padding 20 pixels, and a border radius of 10 pixels. As you can see, using a bit of HTML and CSS, we can inject HTML or PHP code snippets almost anywhere, in WooCommerce or other plugins or themes. Another new feature in WPCodeBox 2.0 is the ability to run snippets using an external secure URL. I have this set up here. I created a PHP snippet and I set it to run using an external secure URL. We can copy or refresh the URL from here, and when we access that URL, you can see we have a token in the URL, so there is no unauthorized access. And using this link you can put it in Zapier or some other applications like that to do all kinds of interesting things with your code snippet. So for example, you could create a post when you send an email or things like that. One of the most requested features for WPCodeBox 2.0 was the functionality plugin. So what the functionality plugin does is save all your code snippets and customizations to a custom plugin, and you will be able to disable WPCodeBox and still keep that functionality. So here we have a snippet that adds the word test to the WordPress head. We can see it here running, and now we can go to settings, and please be aware that this is an experimental functionality and there could be issues with it, so use with care. So when we enable the functionality plugin and save the settings, all our snippets will be dumped to a plugin. If we go here to the plugins page, we will see it. So we have WPCodeBox functionality plugin. The snippets won't run from inside WPCodeBox anymore, but from inside the plugin. And we can see the snippet still runs, and let's go ahead and deactivate WPCodeBox. And if we go here, we still preserve all the functionality, but without having WPCodeBox on our site. This will give us some performance improvements. Also, it will be very easy to keep the functionality on your client sites without having WPCodeBox there. And also it will allow us to do some interesting things like include snippets one into another, because if we activate WPCodeBox and we go here, we can see the file path for each snippet, so we could include it, or we could define, for example, WooCommerce templates using code snippets. So yeah, this is going to be a big feature going forward. It's just experimental for now, but it seems to work pretty well. In the new version, we also have two new conditions. So if we open the condition builder and add a condition, we have the user logged in status now, so you can check if the user is logged in or is not logged in without writing a custom PHP condition. And we also have the user device condition, which checks if the user is coming from mobile or is not on mobile. So if you want to run a code snippet only if the user is logged in or not logged in, or on mobile or not on mobile, this will help going forward. WPCodeBox 2 also has integration with Oxygen, Bricks and Automatic.css. So on this site we have Oxygen installed, and if we write some CSS, let's say an H1, we have the autocomplete for all the Oxygen colors. So here are the Oxygen colors we have saved, and we can select them and we'll have them here. Background color, we also have autocomplete and we can search them. Primary, we can see here that they are Oxygen colors. Let's say primary B, and we have the color completed. As I said, this also works for Bricks and Automatic CSS, and it's a great improvement to your CSS workflow. It also works for SCSS, CSS and less. Now let's look at some miscellaneous new features. I will go over them quickly. So the first one is Emmet support. So now if you write HTML or PHP snippets and want to create HTML, you can write stuff like this: div ul li times 3, and you can see here what it will generate, and we can create here and write here first item, press tab, second item and third item. So yeah, this is Emmet support. Another new feature is the ability to save and download your UI settings to the cloud. So if you have a valid WPCodeBox API key, you can upload your settings to the cloud, your UI settings, how your editor is set up, and you can download them on every site or new WPCodeBox install. So let's say we make some modifications here, and now when we download our settings, everything will be set as we liked it: theme Dracula, the font size and the layout. So yeah, this is going to be useful when customizing your editor and you want to keep your settings. And another quick feature is the ability to collapse both panels using Ctrl 1 and Ctrl 2 if you want to have the full editing experience. If you press Ctrl 2 and Ctrl 1 again, the panels will show up. So this will be helpful if you have white code or a lot of code and want to see it better. So that's Ctrl 1 and Ctrl 2 to collapse the left and right panel. So that was an overview of the most important features in WPCodeBox 2.0. I really think this new version is going to be awesome and it's going to save us a lot of time. If you want to see upcoming videos with how to use these features in more details, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Thank you.